If you are looking for peace in your life, if you want to find guidance from Jesus and live a fulfilling life in faith, then this video is for you. Join us in praying, seeking guidance and unconditional love from Jesus in your life. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family to spread the love of Jesus and help those who are looking for peace in their lives.
Hello everyone, thank you for taking the time to watch today's video. In life, we all face challenges, difficult times that sometimes feel like we cannot overcome. There are times when we feel exhausted, lost, and disoriented. But in those moments, what will help us stand firm? The answer is prayer. Prayer is not simply talking to God, but a way for us to find peace in our souls, to feel His presence even in the most difficult moments. It is in prayer that we find faith and strength to continue walking, no matter how bumpy the road is. Surely you have felt tired, have tried your best but still could not find a way out. I understand that feeling. But I also want to remind you that when we pray, we are not alone. God is always there, ready to listen and guide us through every step. When you feel weak, when you no longer have the strength to continue, prayer will be your lifeline, helping you to keep your faith. So in today's video, I want to share with you how prayer can help us overcome challenges. When we face difficulties in life, how can we pray with all our hearts? How can we feel God's presence in difficult times? I invite you to explore and pray with me, to find peace in God. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Join me in exploring how prayer can bring us strength in difficult times. Together, we will find peace and hope, even when the road becomes dark and uncertain. Please continue to accompany me on this journey. On the way back to God, I have felt my wings broken, cold, unable to fly anymore. There were times when I wanted to move forward, but the road was full of thorns and obstacles. There were times when I wanted to open my arms to love, to give more, but the regrets in my heart told me not to do so. Have you ever felt like that? When life becomes too difficult, when challenges are overwhelming, you feel tired and sometimes disoriented. We keep walking, but the road is not easy. I have asked myself countless times, how far have I gone? Am I loving God enough? Those questions kept repeating in my mind, especially when I felt weak, when I thought I could not continue. But then I realized one thing, perhaps I can never love God completely as He deserves. Because I am human, full of weakness and imperfection. I cannot love Him perfectly, because human love has its limits. However, I know one thing for sure: God loves me despite all my weaknesses and failures. It is His boundless love that keeps me going, no matter how difficult the path. Whenever I feel exhausted, when I feel like I can't go on, I look up and remember that He is still there, by my side. He never abandons me, no matter how many times I fall. And it is in those moments that prayer becomes the strength that helps me get up. Prayer is not just about me talking to God, but when I open my heart, listen to the words He wants to convey, when I feel His presence even in the most difficult moments. It is in prayer that I realize that I am not alone. I realize that the path to God is not always easy, but it is the trials that help me grow in faith. Whenever I feel weak, I look up and know that He is always there, guiding me every step of the way. And in those moments, I find peace and comfort from His boundless love. Although the road to God is long and full of challenges, I know that every step is an opportunity for me to love Him more. I cannot love Him completely, but I can love Him through every step I take, through every fervent prayer. Prayer is the way I show my love for God, even though I am still weak, even though I still stumble. But He does not ask me to be perfect, He just asks me to keep walking, even though the road is bumpy. So, whenever you feel tired, when you feel like you can't go on, remember that God is always with you. God will always guide you, will always help you stand firm, no matter how difficult the road is. It is in prayer that we will find the strength to continue, to never give up. This life, sometimes, is like a long journey full of challenges. And each of us will encounter moments that seem impossible to overcome. There are times when I feel tired, my legs no longer have the strength to continue, challenges keep coming like waves. There are days when I look at the future and feel suffocated, not knowing where the way out is. But then, through each challenge, I realize that those are the moments when I need God's presence the most. When the road becomes difficult, when I feel my strength is exhausted, that is when I need to lift my head and find His light. We cannot avoid challenges in life, but the important thing is that we know how to face them. These challenges are not to destroy us, but to refine our faith. God does not promise to make life easy, but He promises to be with us in every trial, to help us stand firm, no matter how rough the road. When you feel tired, when you feel like you can't go on, remember that you are not alone. It is in those difficult moments that we realize that God is always near. We just need to open our hearts and seek Him. God does not leave us alone, He guides us through the darkest times. Every trial you overcome is a step forward in your journey of faith. And every time you get up, every time you continue walking, you will feel His strength, a strength that you cannot explain, but you know for sure that it is God's grace. Remember, trials are not the end, but part of our great journey. It is these difficulties that are opportunities for us to grow, for us to understand God's boundless love for each person. God does not require us to be perfect, He just requires us to keep walking, no matter how difficult the path is. God will always be the source of boundless strength to help us overcome everything. Therefore, when challenges come, do not see them as things that cannot be overcome. See challenges as opportunities for you to find God's presence, to grow in faith. God will never abandon you, and it is in those difficult times that He will be the light that guides you. Be confident, do not give up, because on this path, God is always with you. When I look back on the path I have taken, I realize that in every challenge, every difficulty I have gone through, I have found a valuable lesson. The times when I felt tired, when I felt like I could not go on, were the times when I was closer to God than ever. Prayer, in those moments, became an indispensable part, like a life buoy in the middle of the ocean. There were times when I felt left behind, when challenges came one after another and I did not know what to do. There were times when I asked myself, do I have enough strength to overcome? Can I continue? But then, in those moments, I found comfort in prayer. Prayer is not only talking to God, but also when I listen to God, when I find peace in my soul. At the times when I felt the weakest, I realized that it was when I was the strongest, because I knew I was not alone. God was always with me, always guiding me. Every time I fall, I get up, not by my own strength, but by God's help. And I realize that it is in those difficult times that I grow in faith. It is the challenges that help me find resilience, find strength that I did not know I had. God never promised that this life would be without difficulties, but He promised to always be there, helping us overcome all challenges. When we pray, we do not just ask God to take away the difficulties, but we ask Him to help us stand firm in the face of challenges, so that we can continue walking on the path of faith. And it is in those challenges that we find the boundless strength of God's love. Perhaps in life, we will never avoid difficult moments. But I believe that if we always keep the faith and persevere in prayer, then no challenge, no matter how great, will be able to defeat us. Prayer is how we connect with God, how we invite Him into our struggles. And it is in those moments that we feel His presence, the peace He gives, and the strength to keep going. There are times in life when I am faced with difficulties and I feel like I have nothing left to hold on to. The challenges keep coming, and I feel like I am being pushed away from everything I believe in. Maybe you have experienced those feelings too. At that time, I asked myself, can I make it? Do I have enough strength to continue? These questions kept ringing in my head, making me feel like I could not move forward. But then, in those moments, I realized one thing: no matter how difficult the road is, no matter how tired I feel, I am not alone. It is the challenges, the waves in life that are opportunities for me to find closeness to God. I realize that it is in the difficult times that I feel His presence most clearly. Prayer is not just a request, but a way for me to open my heart to God, a way for me to find peace in my soul, a way for me to know that even though the road is difficult, I am not alone. And when I pray, when I let my heart relax, I feel something wonderful. The peace I find in my heart does not come from external circumstances, but from connecting with God. God does not promise that we will not face challenges, but He promises that He will always be with us, will always guide us through all challenges. And it is His presence in those difficult times that keeps me going. We may not be able to change our circumstances immediately, but we can change the way we face them. I have come to realize that trials are not something to be feared, but an opportunity for me to see my resilience, to understand that in times of pain and fatigue, God will be the source of infinite strength to help me stand firm. So when you feel exhausted, when you feel like you can't go on, remember that in those moments, you are not alone. Prayer is a way for you to find strength from God, to realize that He is always ready to support you. And in every prayer, even a whisper in the dark, you will feel the comfort and peace that God brings, helping you to keep going, no matter how long or difficult the road. Prayer helps me remember that God's love is not just words, but a presence in every moment of life. It is that presence that helps me see hope, even when I am facing great difficulties. And when I feel weakest, it is that love that makes me stronger. I don't have to be perfect, I just have to keep going and always keep the faith that God will always be there, always be the light that guides me. When I look back on my journey, I realize that it was during those trials that I learned important lessons about faith and God's love. There were times when I felt exhausted, like I couldn't go on anymore. The trials kept coming and I felt like I had no strength left. But then I realized that it was during those times that I clearly felt God's presence. Prayer is not just a request, but a way for me to find peace in my soul, when I open my heart to God and feel that He is listening. Every time I feel weak, it is prayer that helps me realize that I am not alone. In the most difficult moments, I feel closer to God than ever. Maybe you have felt the same way. When trials come, you feel tired and lost. But it is in times like these, I want you to remember that that is when you need to pray the most. Prayer helps us find invisible strength from God, helping us to stand up and continue walking, no matter how many thorns the road ahead is. God does not promise to make our life without difficulties, but He promises to always be with us, to always help us overcome everything. When we face challenges, praying is not to ask God to take away the difficulties, but to ask Him to help us have enough strength, faith, and perseverance to overcome those challenges. Challenges are not something to make us afraid, but an opportunity for us to grow in faith, for us to feel God's love more deeply. Every time I overcome a challenge, I find myself more mature in faith, I feel God's love is greater, and I understand that in every difficulty, I always have His help. No matter how long and arduous the road is, no matter how many challenges come, I know that when I pray, I never walk alone. God is always with me, always guiding me. And it is in those difficult moments that I realize that God's love is boundless, and He will never abandon me. So, in times when you feel tired, in times when you feel like you can't go on, remember that prayer is the way for you to feel God's presence, the way for you to find strength from Him. You are not alone, because God is always with you, always the light that guides you through every challenge. There is one thing I have realized through all the trials and tribulations I have gone through. It is in the moments when I feel the weakest and most helpless that I feel the closeness of God. Have you ever felt like you can't go on anymore? Feeling so tired that you want to give up, feeling like you have done everything you can but still can't see the results. I have experienced that feeling too. There are times when I look back at the path I have traveled and ask myself, what more could I have done? Could I have overcome all these challenges? But then I realized that it was those questions that helped me understand that life is not always perfect, and we cannot control everything. However, the only thing I can do is trust in God, and pray with all my heart. Praying is not just asking God to make things easier, but reminding myself that in every challenge, God will always be there, helping me find the strength to overcome. When we cannot do it on our own, God will be our support, our source of infinite strength, our guiding light. On days when I feel helpless, I turn to prayer as a means to regain my faith. I realize that when I pray, I am not only talking to God, but I am also listening to Him, finding peace in my soul. Each prayer is not just a request, but a way for me to connect with God, a way for me to open my heart to receive His grace and guidance. The more I pray, the more I realize that the peace I find does not come from immediate change of circumstances, but from knowing that God is with me. God does not need me to be perfect. He just asks me to keep going and find comfort in every step, no matter how difficult the road may be. God never promised that life would be without hardship. He didn't promise to take away all challenges, but He promised that He would always be there, and would always help us overcome every challenge, no matter how weak we are. That's the wonderful thing about God's love. He doesn't need us to be perfect to love Him, and He will always love us no matter how many times we stumble. What He needs is perseverance, faithfulness in faith, and the belief that He will always be with us. Every time I face a new challenge, I feel God closer than ever. I realize that challenges are not something to be afraid of, but opportunities for me to see God's love more clearly. We cannot avoid challenges, but when we have God by our side, we can overcome them all. Prayer is a way for me to not only overcome challenges, but also to understand that in every difficulty, God is working in me. Every time I pray, I feel more peaceful. I feel the strength from God to help me continue the journey. And I believe that every difficulty, every challenge has a reason, and through it, I will grow more mature in my faith. When challenges come, do not be afraid. See challenges as part of the journey, an opportunity for you to find strength from God. God does not promise that the path will be thornless, but He promises to always be there to help you overcome. Remember that in every difficult moment, you are never alone. God is always with you, as long as you open your heart and seek Him. So, in the moments when you feel like you cannot go on, in the moments when you feel weak, do not forget that God will never abandon you. Prayer is a way for you to find comfort, find peace, and receive the strength to carry on. God will always keep you going, for He is the guiding light in the darkest of times. Trust that He will never abandon you, and in Him, you can overcome any challenge. And I realize that, in every challenge we face, there is one very important thing that we need to remember: patience. Patience not only helps us overcome difficulties, but it is also the key to help us discover the inner strength that we sometimes do not realize. When I feel like I cannot go on, when the difficulties weigh heavily on my shoulders, I remember the words of God: "Be patient and pray, for it is in these times that you will see His wonders." God does not promise that the road to Him will be easy. He does not promise that we will not stumble, but He promises that He will always be with us, guiding us through every challenge. Yes, challenges are a part of life. But every trial, every difficulty we go through is not a punishment, but an opportunity for us to see God's presence, to realize that His love for us is boundless, and that He will always be an endless source of strength in our weakest moments. There are times when I feel like I can't take it anymore. The nights are long, the days are dark, and it seems like there will be no end. But it is in those moments that prayer becomes an invisible source of comfort and strength. Prayer helps me see the trial differently. Instead of seeing the trial as a burden, I learn to see it as an opportunity for me to be closer to God, so that I can feel His love and presence in every step. Maybe you are facing a big trial, maybe you are feeling lonely and tired. But I want you to remember that in every trial, you are never alone. God is always with you. Difficult times are when you can pray and connect with Him, when you can find peace in Him. God will never leave you. And through each trial, you will find yourself growing in faith. We can never avoid trials, but it is in these moments that we have the opportunity to prove our love to God. Every time we overcome a trial, we get closer to God, we feel His love more strongly. At those times, when we feel tired and want to give up, it is when we need to look up, pray and trust that God will give us strength. So, if you are feeling like the trial is too great, if you feel like your strength is exhausted, do not forget that prayer is the source of boundless strength. Pray with all your heart, because in prayer, you will not only find comfort, but also find the strength to continue walking. Prayer helps you realize that, no matter how difficult the road is, you are never alone. God is always with you, and will always be your guiding light. Remember, trials cannot defeat you when you have God by your side. And the trials you face are just part of your journey of faith, an opportunity for you to grow in love and faith in God. So don't give up, don't turn your back on your journey. Prayer will help you stand firm, help you find the strength to overcome all difficulties. God will never abandon you. When you feel exhausted, pray. When you feel tired, pray. And when you feel like you can't go any further, prayer will be the source of strength to help you stand firm and keep going. Trust in God's love, and never give up, because He is always with you, always guiding you. One thing I have learned from the trials of life is that sometimes, when I think I can't take it anymore, that's when I see the strength that God has planted in me. When life gets difficult, when trials come one after another, I have realized that I am not the only one facing these hardships. But more importantly, I have understood that in every trial, I can find comfort and strength from God. When we face difficulties, we often only see darkness before us, only see the dark road ahead. But I want you to remember, every trial is an opportunity for us to discover something wonderful about ourselves, about our faith, and about God's love. Without challenges, we would not know our own strength, and most of all, we would not realize the love of God that is present in our lives. Maybe at this moment, you are feeling lost, feeling so tired that you don't want to continue. Maybe you feel like the difficulties are weighing you down, and you don't know what you can do to overcome them. But I want you to remember one thing: no matter how you feel, God is always with you. He will never abandon you. God knows you are going through these difficulties, and He will help you overcome them. When I faced challenges, I also felt like I couldn't go on. But after each prayer, I felt a strange strength. It was God's presence that helped me realize that no matter how big the challenge, I could overcome it, because I was not alone. God is always the light that guides me through the darkest nights, helps me keep going when I feel like I'm exhausted. And when you feel like you can't go on, that's when you need to pray even more. Prayer is not just words, it's an opening of your heart to God. It helps you find peace, helps you realize that every challenge is just a part of the great journey that God has planned for you. Prayer helps you keep your faith, helps you remember that no matter how difficult the road is, you are never alone. The challenges may be making you feel exhausted, but they will make you stronger in your faith. Prayer is how you connect with God, how you find the strength to stand up. Never be afraid when facing difficulties, because in every difficult moment, God is always by your side, and He will help you keep going. So, don't let the challenges defeat you. Don't let the difficulties make you give up on your journey. Prayer is the strength that God gives you, and in prayer you will find the strength to overcome all difficulties. Let God's love be the light that guides you, helping you see the way even when all around you is darkness. Trust in Him, because He will never abandon you, and He is always ready to pick you up whenever you stumble. In difficult moments, prayer is the lamp that guides you, helping you never lose your way. No matter where you feel you are at a crossroads, no matter how big the challenge, prayer will keep you on the right track, because God will show you the way. Keep praying, because in prayer you will find peace and strength to overcome any challenge. When I look back on my journey, one thing I realize clearly is that God has always been with me, even when I felt at my weakest, or when I felt like I couldn't go on anymore. Prayer was the means for me to find peace in those dark moments. And every time I prayed, I felt that God always heard me. He always knew what I was going through. There was not a single prayer that He ignored, whether it was a silent prayer or a prayer from the bottom of my heart. It was in those difficult moments, when I felt lost, when the trials kept coming, that I found strength from God. In fact, prayer helped me not only find comfort, but also helped me discover the hidden strength within myself. I realized that I was not a weak person, because I had God always with me. He would be the source of strength for me to overcome all challenges. Prayer is not only a way for us to express our pain, but also a way for us to open our hearts to God, to realize that His love is always present around us. When we pray, we not only ask Him for help, but also learn to trust in His guidance, learn to find peace despite the challenges. Every time I pray, I realize that difficulties are not the end, but part of the journey that God has outlined for me. Every challenge is a step forward in the journey of faith. We are never alone when we have God by our side. Whenever we face difficulties, we can pray and know that He will never abandon us. Prayer is the way we connect with God, the way we invite Him into our lives. God is always listening and will give us the strength we need to keep going. There may be times when you feel like the challenge is too great, like you can't go on. But remember, whenever you feel like that, it's when you need to pray more than ever. It's when you need to listen to God, to let Him guide you through. You never have to face a challenge alone, because God will always be there, helping you stand firm and keep going. So, always keep faith in your heart and pray when you feel tired. Never forget that God is always with you. He will never let you go alone. And in the moments when you feel weakest, God will be the strength to help you stand up and keep going. Prayer is an eternal connection with God, where you can find peace, hope, and strength. Trust that every challenge has a reason, and through each challenge, we become stronger in faith. Prayer is a powerful force that can help us find peace in any situation. No matter what you are facing, no matter what challenges you face, always remember that God will never abandon you. He will always be there to help you through it all, and lead you to the light. Prayer is how you keep your faith in His love, and how you find the strength to continue your journey of faith. There are times in my life when I feel like I am in the middle of a vast ocean, not knowing where to go, not knowing what to do. Challenges and worries keep coming, making it impossible for me to see any peaceful shore. In those moments, I feel small, weak, and there seems to be no way to overcome it all. But then, in my most desperate moments, I realize one thing: it is in those moments that I need prayer more than ever. Prayer is not just a way for me to ask God for help, but a way for me to open my heart to Him, so that I can find peace in my heart. I realize that when I pray, I am not only talking to God, but also letting God talk to me. Prayer is when I listen to His guidance, when I feel His invisible presence beside me. And that is the strength I need most in difficult times. When you feel like you can't go on, when you feel like the challenge is too great, never forget that prayer is the way to access God's infinite strength. Never think that you have to go through it alone. God is always with you, always ready to help you whenever you feel exhausted. Prayer helps you realize that you are not alone, and in every challenge, you always have God by your side, leading you through it. When you feel like you can't take it anymore, that's when you need to pray more. That's when you need to put all your trust in God, and let Him be the strength to help you overcome. God never promised that life would be without challenges, but He promised to always be there, to guide you through every difficulty. When you pray, you are opening the door for God to come into your life, to help you overcome all the difficulties you encounter. God doesn't need you to be perfect. He just needs you to persevere and be faithful to Him. It is in the difficult times, when you feel your weakest, that you will realize that God's love never changes. He loves you even when you are weak, even when you fall, and He will always support you, help you stand up and keep going. Prayer is not just about asking God for help in difficult times, but also about seeing challenges as part of your journey of faith. Challenges are not the end, but opportunities to draw closer to God. When you pray, you are opening your heart to Him, helping you see the valuable lessons in each challenge. Every challenge, no matter how difficult, is a step forward in your journey of faith. Remember, in the times when you feel tired, when you feel like you can't go on, it is prayer that will be the source of strength to help you stand. Never forget that God is always with you, always ready to help you. He will never abandon you. When you feel like you can't go any further, remember that God will help you get up and keep going. So when life gets tough, when you face challenges, don't be afraid. Pray, and in prayer you will find peace, strength, and hope. God will always be your guiding light, helping you overcome every challenge and move forward. I often wonder, if there were no challenges in life, would I realize the strength of my faith? Would I understand the boundlessness of God's love? Challenges do not come just to knock me down, but they are opportunities for me to grow, for me to learn to put my full trust in God, for me to see His presence in every situation, whether difficult or favorable. There are times when I feel tired, want to give up, want to deny everything that is hindering me. But then I remember the Lord's words, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." It is at that moment that I realize that difficulties, no matter how great, are not the end. And prayer is the way I find peace in times when I think there is no hope. There were times when I fell down, thinking that I could not continue. But it was in those moments that prayer helped me get up. God never leaves us. He is always there, supporting us through every trial, and giving us the strength to keep going. Prayer is when I feel God's love, feel that He is always with me, never leaving me. Trials are an inevitable part of life. We cannot avoid them, but we can choose how to face them. Prayer is our choice, the way we open our hearts to God, so that He can help us overcome the difficulties. It is in those moments of weariness, when we feel like we cannot go on, that prayer is the source of strength we need to stand firm. God knows what we are going through. He knows we can be weak, but it is in that weakness that we find His strength. God doesn't require us to be perfect, He just requires us to trust in Him, to persevere in our faith. Prayer is how we maintain that faith, how we remind ourselves that God is always there, always ready to help us. Every time I face a challenge, I feel more clearly that, no matter how severe the challenge is, God is still with me, as long as I open my heart and pray. He never leaves me alone, and it is in those moments that I find the strength to get up and keep going. Maybe you are feeling tired, feeling like you can't go on anymore. But I want you to remember, you are never alone. God is always with you. He will always be the source of light to help you overcome every challenge. When you pray, you are opening your heart to Him, and that is how you receive comfort and strength to keep going. Never give up, because in every difficult moment, it is God who will help you stand firm. So, if you feel like you can't go on, don't hesitate to pray. Open your heart to God and believe that He will always help you through the challenge. You will find yourself becoming stronger as you put your trust in Him. God will never abandon you, and in every challenge, you will find peace, strength, and hope. So, when you look back at your life, when you face challenges, never forget that each challenge carries a valuable lesson. Each difficulty you overcome is a step forward in your journey of faith. And in all of this, prayer is the means by which you connect with God, find peace and strength to weather every storm of life. When you feel like you can't go on, when you feel tired and want to give up, remember that you are not alone. God is always with you. It is His love that guides you, that helps you find the strength to get up and keep going. In every challenge, He will never abandon you. Prayer is how we express our faith, how we show our loyalty to God. Not to ask Him to take us away from difficulties, but to ask Him to give us the strength to overcome, to help us find comfort even when the path becomes dark. Every time you pray, you get closer to God, and you understand more about His boundless love for you. Remember that life is not always easy, but it is in those difficult times that you see how strong God's love is. Prayer is not just an action, but a deep connection between you and God, a way for you to find new hope and strength every day. So, no matter how big the challenge, no matter how long the road, never give up. Keep praying, keep trusting in God, and you will find yourself steady. In every difficult moment, remember that you are never alone. God is always with you, helping you overcome everything. Thank you for accompanying me on this journey. Never forget that in every challenge, you can find strength through prayer, through faith in God's love. Keep walking, and God will guide you. Wishing you peace and strength in all life's challenges.